Hello students, our topic of today is Elegy written in a country churchyard by Thomas Gray. This poem shows Gray at his best and is perhaps the most famous single poem in the English language. In both his choice of theme and in style, Gray conforms to tradition using the form of the orthodox elegy, leading up to the formal final epitaph and closing on the note of hope. This elegy is popular not because of any originality of idea, but because of the harmonious balance of all the elements that create a final poetical effect. The language of the age is never the language of poetry, according to Gray. As a result, his choice of diction, words, and phrases is figurative. He was one of the poets against whom Wordsworth reacted. The elegy also abounds in personified abstractions such as ambition, grandeur, honor, knowledge, memory, flattery. The poem is written in cross-rhymed iambic pentameter quatrains, 4 lines stanzas, rhyming AB AB. Each line contains 10 syllables or 5 iambic feet. The elegy deserves its fame. The thought of death, the leveler, is a commonplace, no doubt, but it is one of those commonplaces that never grow old. A tender heart beats under the stiff brocade of the style. The stately argument moves steadily on from the lonely hushed opening to the wistful close. The elegy begins at the time of evening. The poet starts the elegy at the time of dawn. The day is drawing to its close. Cattle are slowly moving homeward with the tired manner, with the tired farmers. They leave the poet in churchyard in the growing darkness. A deep calm settles in the atmosphere. The silence is occasionally interrupted by the droning flight of the beetles, the twinkling of ship bells, and hooting of owls. There was peace, almost peace. Gray is standing in the churchyard about the poor rustic who were buried outside the church. He says that they will no longer be aroused from sleep by any sound of birds, cocks, huntman's horn. No housewife or children will greet them on their return to home after days' hard work. While they were alive, they reaped harvest and happily drove their cattle to the fields. They were simple men, the ambitious and soif men of the cities should not mock, should not laugh at their simplicity and non ambitious life. They should know that the end of all show, wealth, beauty, etc. is decay and death. Death is the ultimate end of human life. Death levels all distinctions. The poor rustics had all the feelings which the rich had. The poet addresses the wealthy man that they should not make fun of the poor, they should not laugh, they should not make fun of the poor who are lying in the simple grave, who are lying in the simple graves where no monuments have been erected. The rich people should not laugh at them. Flattery and show cannot affect them in death. Some of the poor rustics might have had poetic and kingly talents. They might have the people of great talent. They might have the people of great poetic genius, which they could not develop. And so, due to their poverty prevented them to show their talent, to show their abilities. But poverty checked them also from committing certain crimes, though they could not develop, they could not display their merits simultaneously. They also checked their crimes, they also checked themselves to commit crimes as getting power through bloodshed, etc. They loved to lead a life in calm and peace and solitary places, away from the strife of the city life, away from the hustle and bustle of life. Though on the graves of the rustics no trophies are raised, yet some frail memorials with imperfect verses composed and written by illiterate poets, so that they also have a longing that their name should not be forgotten after death, as the rich also desire. They want to be remembered after death by their friends and relations. Some country poet like him may say something about the poet that the writer of these lines could not get no honor in life. He was often seen wandering at the early dawn on the upland lawn to reach the churchyard. He used to stretch out his body at full length at the foot of a beech tree and look towards the soft murmuring brook. He was seen sometimes smiling and sometimes sad and pale. But one morning he was not found on the hill on which he usually found. Next morning also he was not seen beside the brook. On the third morning his dead body was seen being carried in a funeral procession through the path leading to the church. His tombstone lying near contained an epitaph. The poet lived in obscurity. He had a melancholy disposition. He was favored by the goddess of learning. He had a silent and liberal soul and gained a friend in God Himself. Nobody should examine his merits and demerits further. He has offered his fault and virtues to God. In this way, the elegy is about the rustic and poor people who are neglected, who are remained suppressed without popularity due to poverty. Poverty compelled them not to be popular, not to be rich, not to have the fame the rich people are having. And even no monuments or no memorials have been erected over their tomb. So, this poem is one of the most famous poems in English literature. It deals with the lives of the simple country people. The poem is also remarkable for its autobiographical note. The autobiographical part of the poem comprises the last 9 stanzas of the poem. The object of the poet in writing these lines about himself was his desire to identify himself with the poor and simple villagers. Gray says that some country poet may write about him that he was often seen at the time of the daybreak going hurriedly to the grassy hilltop. When we analyze the poem, we find the following qualities of Gray. Passionate love for nature. Gray is a love poet. He was a passionate love poet. The feeling of loneliness which made him melancholic. The feeling that he failed to achieve fortune as well as fame in the world. Love of knowledge and love and sympathy for the poor. When we study Gray's life and poetry, we find that Gray's self-portrait is very faithful one. As a poet and man, he had all the qualities that he mentioned in his self-portrait. He was among the first to show love for nature. He was a very learned man. He sympathized with the poor and the lowly people. Gray says that he was unknown to fame and fortune. However, Gray did not regard these things as very important. He knew that these things generally made men proud. He knew that persons who had wealth were often proud. Such persons hated the poor and laughed at them. So the elegy is a very well known poem of Thomas Gray, and due to this only poem, Gray stands among the most popular poets. Thank